incredible experience. I mean, just for one, never thought I would be in a car again. Just thought it was an impossible situation. So kind of write it off in your mind, and then to have an opportunity like this, to have it be in such an iconic vehicle as a Corvette, and then to go over 100 miles an hour, it's truly a dream come true. Really, like many things in our lives, I think it's a team effort, group of partners. Amazing that probably 85% of the components in the car are just random off-the-shelf items used for different things, and get a group of smart people together and look what comes out the other end. You know, it's truly kind of reinvigorated my opinion of what can be done if you put your mind to it. Well, you're talking to a guy that didn't get a computer till he was in college and probably still hasn't learned how to use one properly, but it opens up an incredible world of opportunity for, particular people with disabilities. I mean, whether it's brain interface, like used in gaming, or exoskeletons, to allow me and people like me to be more independent. The connectivity of the car, I'm hearing crazy things like when I drive up to my house via mobile Bluetooth technology, my house will recognize me, the door will open up, maybe bring my wheelchair to my car so I can transfer from my car to the wheelchair in the same seat, roll into the house, and it'll recognize that it's me and change the temperature, turn on the lights, do things that are tailored to my needs. All that stuff is within grasp and just around the corner. So it's phenomenal. I can't wait for the next 10 to 15 years. Incredibly intuitive. I mean, you just tilt your head to the left and tilt your head to the right and push back to go faster. And so it was amazing how easy it came to me and how just natural it felt overall. And so the engineers did an incredible job. I'm just sort of happy to be along for the ride.
How were you approached by Aero to get started on this project?
Just very, very fortunate. Aero knew some of the people we knew in the automotive industry out of Craig Hospital in Denver, and one thing led to another, and right place at the right time. They called me and said, how would you like to drive a car in about 9 months at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? And I said, absolutely, I'm in.
The Corvette is a standard Corvette that we bought from a dealership. It's the same Corvette that anybody else could buy and drive home. We didn't change the motor or the transmission or any of the mechanical parts. But what we did was add electronics and integrate them in a new way in order to drive with your head. So there's 3 systems that we modified in the car to do that. We modified the steering, we modified the acceleration, and we modified the braking. With the steering, to drive with your head, to steer with your head, we have 4 infrared cameras in the cabin of the car that are pointed at the driver. He's wearing a baseball cap that has little reflective ball-shaped mirrors on the cap. The infrared cameras send an infrared beam out, reflect off the cap and back to the camera. And the angle of reflection is how much the car turns. So we first start by looking straight at the camera, and that establishes the reference point of straight. And then he turns his head right or he turns his head left. And when the beams reflect back to the camera at that angle, the computer in the car that we added averages the angle of reflection from all 4 cameras, and that's what steers the car. And it does that in 1/100th of a second. So that's faster than how I can steer with my hands. The next modification was to the acceleration, and because our driver can only move from his shoulders up, he can't use the pedals because he can't move his legs or his feet. So we put a gas pedal in the headrest behind him. There's an electronic sensor in the headrest that he will tap with his head by tapping backwards. And we've set it like cruise control in 10-mile-an-hour increments. So every time he taps his head back, the car goes 10 miles an hour faster. So if he wants to go 100 miles an hour, he taps the headrest 10 times. And finally, for braking, he holds a bite plate in his mouth. And the harder he bites down, the sharper the car stops. So if he was to bite down very hard, it would be like a panic stop. So what we try to do is bite softly and smoothly. And actually, in order to drive the car with your head, all of his movements have to be synchronized together, very small movements in a very synchronized way, because you don't steer a car with herky-jerky movements. You want to be very smooth, and it's very slight corrections in order to drive well. It's the same thing with your head. You're making small motions at all times. When we got the idea for this car, the challenge was not, can we build a car that would be attractive to the automobile industry, or would we build a car that would get us into the car-making business for disabled people? It was simply, what can we do that would be innovative, that would demonstrate the future of electronics, and that might actually help people, that would have a social benefit? And because of our interest in electronics and the fact that cars are becoming more and more electronic all the time, and because cars are so integral to our lives, we thought that we would like to work on a car. And then what would be the most dramatic thing we could do? What would be the most unexpected wow thing that we could do to a car that would actually also help someone? And so we came up with the idea of modifying a car that could be driven by someone who has almost no physical movement, and be able to restore a version of driving for that person again. And that's how we came upon this project, and that's how we met Sam Schmidt, our driver, who was a race car driver, paralyzed 15 years ago in a racing accident. He never thought he'd drive again, but in cooperation with our project, he's now able to do the one thing he loves most in life, and the thing that he thought he'd never, ever do again.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of fine companies out there. I mean, what we think we do really well is that we're able to bundle together, you know, significant amounts of technology, suppliers, products into one solution and provide that in a kind of cohesive and coordinated way, you know, for our customers. And I think that's what differentiates us, is that we believe in the entire ecosystem, not just part of it. We want to make sure that people, frankly, can be guided from, you know, from the beginning to the end of that process. And we think that means that we need strong partners. That means that sometimes we need to go and find and work with new partners to bring that to a reality. And I think you can just see that by the sheer scale of the people that we work with. You know, frankly, a lot of the individual pieces do exist, but actually the magic sauce is exactly what you just described, bringing that together in such a way that it actually enables people that have never done this stuff before, that have never connected to the world before, and helping them do that. You know, and customers that are used to designing their own particular products for their own particular marketplaces now live in a world where they frankly have to think of their products in terms of what it can connect to and what value that can provide. And frankly, they don't have the capabilities or the background in doing that work. We think that our job is to make sure that we pull all of those components, those solutions, the ecosystem, the tools together, and help them bundle that up into something that just gets them to market and makes their great ideas a reality. So for me, there's going to be more of that collaboration in this world, not less.